This is At Risk Radio.
Welcome to At Risk Radio. At Risk Radio is a show where we talk about leadership in the church at risk. My name is Mark Stafford, and I'm the host of the show. I'm here with David Witt. He's the CEO of SOM International. And also as my guest here in the studio is Doug Feavel. Doug Feavel, he wrote the book Uncommon Character, stories of ordinary men and women who did the extraordinary. And Doug, I want to talk with you just for a minute here. One of the people who you decided to unpack, we had 26 people who you unpacked these incredible stories about what they did for Christ in situations where they were in great risk. And one of the stories that you decided to unpack was, well, one of our own, Russell Stendhal. Russell Stendhal's been on this show before. He's one of the people who we report about every single month in our newsletter. He is working with the military. He's working with the guerrilla group. He's working with villagers. He's working with farmers. He's working with people who are way out in these distant, hard to reach areas. He's doing radio ministry. He has this very dynamic ministry. One thing that our listeners may not know is that La Montaña is a DVD that's been made. It's in Spanish, but it's a DVD that's been made about his life and about his outreach. But Doug, as you were writing about Russell, what's one thing that really stood out to you as being unique or compelling about Russell's ministry?
Okay, Mark, I'm going to take that statement about the one thing, and I'm going to have to flip it on its head, because it wasn't the one thing. What impressed me more than anything else, and this is very confessional, is that one individual, one man, could do so much, to be involved in so many aspects. I just, I came out of business and I thought I knew what productivity was, but this man is so productive with his radio ministries, with his airdrops. I could go on and on. The man seems to be successfully everywhere all at once. I just cannot imagine how any individual, other than one that is anointed of the Lord, can accomplish so much with so little.
Well, it makes sense then that he was part of your book, Uncommon Character, stories of ordinary men and women who did the extraordinary. We're going to talk a little bit more with Doug Feavel and also with David Witt when we come back from our break. So hold on, we'll be right back.
At Risk Radio.
Can you imagine trying to disciple a church with only one Bible? This is Mark Stafford from At Risk Radio, and our contacts in Venezuela are telling us incredible stories about people coming to know Jesus, all the while pastors are missing Bibles for their people. After receiving a Bible from our ministry, one man said with tears in his eyes, "No one has ever given me such a beautiful gift." At Risk Radio, in our partnership with SOM International, is working to bring 2 million Bibles into Venezuela. For more information about how you can help, go to atriskradio.com. Welcome back to At Risk Radio. I'm online with David Witt. He's a CEO of SOM International, and also with Doug Feavel. He's the author of Uncommon Character. Now, David, you've been working with Russell for quite a while, and you've seen these things. He seems to have a really multifaceted ministry. But instead of talking about Russell specifically, I want to talk about how this impacts us. Like, what does that say about us? As Doug said in the first session, Russell seems to be without an end of his energy. He seems to just keep going and going and going and going. And some of us think that we're productive. And then I think about the 9 different ministries that he's running all the time, and it's pretty impressive. So what do you think that says about how the Lord can use any one of us, just common people who maybe the Lord would use to do something extraordinary?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm with Doug and been drawn in awe of Russell and his whole family and all the workers down there. It's extraordinary energy. I'm a witness to it. And one day I've been with Russell where, we met with some government generals, and then we met with some paramilitary leadership, and then even some FARC leadership. And, I've never seen anybody go across lines of enemies like that and not be labeled. And I think what is unique in Russell's life is because he wears Christ. I mean, he's the third party who loves all, right? Christ is his Lord, and he's not taking party lines, and he's not lining up even quote quote doctrinally. I mean, his doctrine is Jesus and him alone, his word, and so it's amazing how he's been able to form alliances with what he talks about, clean-hearted people. And I think that's and that then goes back to Russell. How could a guy have so much energy and get so much done? Is that when like a conduit, a pipe is clean, you can put a lot of product, a volume through that, right? But a corroded, pipe is going to slow down the material and slow down the gas if it's a gas line. And so that's, I think, the best way that I could see all the years that I've worked with Russell is he's kept his heart clean. And so the Lord's been able to produce much fruit out of his life. And I think that is, Mark, relates to now the leadership principle here that as believers, we need to have clean hearts so that God can channel his love, his character through us to impact a broken and hurting generation around us.
Yeah, that's right. It's really inspiring to hear all that he's done, but more so that he's tried to do that in a way that is crossing many different lines, and it not being about his own personality, but really being about Christ. Well, what are some things, David, that people can do to connect with Doug and his ministry, connect with Russell and his ministry, SOM and the ministry that you lead? What are some things that people can do to get connected with those things?
Well, since we have Doug on here, I just want to advertise that Doug's book is one of our favorites. I already told Doug that, and I hand his book out all the time. And most chapters and biographical, sketches in there are about 8 to 12 pages. So they're very manageable. And, you just get inspired by the way God has used lives of many names people haven't even heard of. And that God's done that in history, continues to do that as people are available. So I'd certainly encourage people to get a hold of us, begin a relationship with our ministry. I mean, we really consider everybody that's involved as family. I mean, Doug is part of the SOM global network, and he's family. And he honored us with even mentioning us in the book. And we just love his book. And so that's a starting place today. And then as people get involved, then they can really start praying. I think all work and impact starts with prayer and growing as leaders themselves. And then as leaders, how we can come beside in partnership with our global family. And there's our service projects at times. I mean, with hands-on, as they get to know our ministry, go online, they can read about those things. And obviously giving to these projects of really spreading his word, discipling globally places where it's high risk and it's unreached. And so that's so much of our heart.
I love what you said about how when you have a clean vessel, the word can really flow through that. And we see that through many of the different leaders who are a part of SOM's ministry.
I think, Mark, too, is if I can jump in here before we close it, also one last thing, Mark, is I was curious if, Doug, you could share with us, why were you drawn to really partner with Spirit of Martyrdom Ministries and the international work? How have you been impacted yourself? Because we've been impacted by you, but I'd love for you to just even put a word in of your experience.
Sure. Two ways, really. First, we had so much overlap in common with the people that we were working with or we admired. The other was simply that when I got to know your organization, and a lot like Russell Stendhal, you get a phenomenal amount of ministry done with very little resources, a lot of volunteers, and a lot of productivity, and you're literally in numerous places around the globe. And I'm just impressed with how productive you are for the Lord, how much you hold the kingdom in your hand and are willing to consistently invest into that kingdom.
Well, Doug, I appreciate you being here today. And just to give you a picture of what happens here at the SOM office where our studio is, right outside in a big gathering area, there was a whole room full of volunteers that were putting together newsletters and who were helping us to connect with donors. And Doug got to be a part of that today. And as you get to know Spirit of Martyrdom Ministries, we have many opportunities for you to get involved in the ministry that's happening here at Spirit of Martyrdom. Well, At Risk Radio is a ministry of Spirit of Martyrdom. You can find us at atriskradio.com. And for right now, this is Mark Stafford, and this has been At Risk Radio.
You've been listening to At Risk Radio. For more, go to atriskradio.com. At Risk Radio is a production of SOM International.